So, this cancel culture has finally reached the tiny doorstep of weapons of meme destruction in a very fortuitous way, because it gave us a whole topic of discussion for our bumper tonight.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you are on the email list, you've gotten a sneak peek of this. And if you're not on the email list,
what are you doing?
You definitely should. Go to wmdpodcast.com on the front page right there. Hop on our email list. We'll keep you entertained during the week as well. But anyway, what I sent the email list is something that happened to me this past week. I got my first Zuck ban.
You got slapped by Facebook.
I did. The Zuck came for me and banned me from commenting I didn't realize this. I could not even like a friend's picture. Like I was, because I was still scrolling through, even though I couldn't comment for 24 hours. And I saw like a friend put up
So they let you watch the other kids play, but wouldn't let you play with any of their toys.
They put me in the corner, but not facing the corner. I had to watch.
You're so damn grounded. And in fact, don't put your face in the corner. Turn around and watch all the other kids play. Oh, that's devious.
That's kind of wicked, right?
That's messed up, Zuckerberg. We knew you were messed up, but good God.
So
watch all these other kids have fun while you sit in the corner.
Well, but that's the thing is like, not only did I have to watch them and sit in the corner, I couldn't even like call out to one and say, "Hey, cool picture. That's kind of funny." Like
I like your life. Let me be part of it. Like this one little thumbs up that you guys invented.
So I know what you're thinking, dear listener.
You're saying, "Oh, Dane, what did you do that was so egregious?"
Exactly, because the listeners are like, "Man, we hear you every week. You don't say stuff that's that bad." He laughs under his breath.
Dane doesn't say things that bad.
Oh, David doesn't. Well, I don't know. A little column A, a little column B.
Let's say you can say things that will get us watched by the FBI. I will say things that would definitely get us bleeped and canceled off of like a primetime broadcast.
And together we are your dynamic duo of offense.
Correct. I'm offended that you find me offended.
That's right. So you're thinking, Dane, what'd you do? So I'll set the stage very briefly on what led to my statement that got me banned. It was our favorite, lefty liberal meme page, the other 98%. They posted some meme basically saying that landlords were scum because, they charge you $150 fee to do a background check.
Funny story. You. It'll recur later in this episode.
Yeah. So I just made some comment about imagine thinking that, money to get access to somebody's property, which a background check is a step in that. Imagine calling that extortion, but not the government metaphorically and will literally, if you don't comply, hold a gun to your head to take 30% of what you earn. That's not extortion to these people, but God forbid a landlord charge a fee to do a background check.
Please, Dane. Verbatim.
Oh, yes. Sorry. So that was the meme. That was my first response. Somebody responded to me about again, his words, direct quote, koala ejaculation and mass dolphin murder. And because those are defensible.
What the hell does that even mean? Am I too old for Facebook now?
I think you are.
I thought it was like for the geriatrics to get their news, their fake news. But apparently you're going to have to break that one down for me.
Well,
koala ejaculation into dolphin murder?
Because in my response to the post, I was making the reference to the fact that not only can the government take 30% of your paycheck, it's not even going to the things that we're told it's going to, schools, roads, yada, yada, yada. It goes to mass murder. It mostly goes to bombing poor kids overseas.
Or coming up with better ways.
So because I raised that as a moral objection to taxation, period, this guy said, oh, well, yeah, it can also fund koala ejaculation and mass dolphin murder.
I wonder if the koala ejaculator got banned for 24 hours.
I don't believe he did. But, and you should have seen some of the other things said to me on this thread, but we digress. So he's saying that basically because taxation is defensible on those other grounds, then it's defensible in all situations, which, again, in light of that mental diarrhea, I feel like my response was rather measured. David, you've seen it. Did my response seem that bad?
I mean, do you want to read the response and just let the listener
quit hiding the ball? I didn't know if you had an opinion before.
Oh, let's let the listener have an opinion.
So here is my verbatim response to his thing about koala ejaculation and stuff. Money is fungible, you potato.
Dolphin rape capes.
So I guess there's my first harassing and bullying comment. I called him a potato.
Oh, God.
I said, your taxes are just as validly applied to mass murder as they are to whatever mundane projects you paint chip eaters. Again, maybe that's also harassing and bullying, whatever. Whatever mundane projects you paint chip eaters can't seem to fathom anything or anyone but government producing. So the gist of what I'm saying there is, you potato, you paint chip eater. You claim that taxes go to all these things that people can't, like, God forbid they don't take our money to build roads, because I don't know how humanity would ever figure out how to build hard, flat things from one point to another. Like, that has to be coercively funded.
Well, let's just take it at its face value. Like, if you said that on primetime ABC, NBC, Fox television, would they have to bleep that out? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't bleep any of that
potato
out.
Or
potato
paint chip eater? No, I don't think
listen
so.
Here, you potato. Like, oh, God, we missed one. Like, oh, he called the other guy a potato. Our lives are ruined. We're getting called into the office tomorrow. Like, that's... you could hear that entire line of verbiage on any given channel at any given time, on any given app at any given time. There's no, and you didn't even come back with them like with dolphin murder or dolphin rape caves or anything like that. Like,
I know, and that's what I'm saying is like, okay. When I said my response is measured, somebody can objectively read what I wrote and be like, dude, you are just dripping with, like, you know, I don't know, like, I'm talking down to the guy. I'm not directly, but I'm like implicitly putting him down, which, again, guilty as charged. I'm not defending that part of it. But what I'm saying is, when you consider the type of comments that I get in response to something like that, how low level IQ it is, and it's stuff like, but who will build the roads, you know, that kind of stuff.
How could you do anything but punch down?
Right, exactly. I'd like at that person who automatically jumps to caricatures, special pleading, all of the logical fallacies we talk about on this show all the time. You know, you are in the fight, but you, again, from my perspective, is they're not worthy of a dignified response.
You brought a knife to a gunfight, basically, is what you did.
Exactly.
Like, if you don't even want to play with it, I bet you he read your comment, digested it for 5 seconds, and made it.
He didn't read it. That's the thing. The second I pushed reply or send, Facebook pulled the comment so nobody could see it or reply to it, and immediately put me under review and banned me for 24 hours.
Wow.
Like, he did not even see this comment. They pulled it that fast. So, I mean, it was an algorithm.
They had it out for it.
Something in that sentence, either the word potato or paint chip eaters or something, or the fact that I said you, or I don't know, something triggered the algorithm to see that. And there was something in there that was automatically, like, I'm sure you've heard, and this intro is turning into the episode. I'm sure you've heard about like when somebody, if, like, let's say we did an episode about Alex Jones and we just had Alex Jones in the title on YouTube, we'd automatically get flagged.
Right.
So there's certain words like that. There's certain names that are like that on some of these platforms. And so I don't know, maybe calling somebody a potato is bullying and harassing.
Maybe somebody sexually identifies as a potato. Okay? You can't just be throwing that around willy-nilly. Don't you understand? So, not to bury the lead anymore, because this
we're setting intro records here.
Turned into a part 1 of a part 2 episode. Anyway, so this leads and caveats nicely into the episode that we're going to discuss after this drop-in, right?
I think so. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 63, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/63. You'll also be able to find this episode on any major podcast app, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. You can also get these episodes on YouTube. But other than that, link up with us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And also come over to the homepage at weapons@wmdpodcast.com and jump on the email list. Now, David, every time I think...
I'm so ready for this episode.
Every time I think that the Branch Covidians cannot engage in cringier, cultish behavior, they seem to outdo themselves.
Well, in the pre-roll, before the pre-roll, which was the texts on Monday.
And the pre-roll.
And the pre-roll to the pre-roll. I thought this particular COVID-19 was like a Armageddon,
Armageddon the hell out of here.
Armageddon out of here. No, like a Red Dawn kind of thing where it's like we're gonna bust into factions and then we're gonna, go back to cave-like dwellings, but with better technology and so on and so forth.
You're saying we're going to do that to ourselves, like blow ourselves up?
Basically, I thought this was going to cause the
implosion.
Thank you. Implosion of society, not just Western society, but society as we know it.
Yeah, it would be at each other's throats.
But I realized with the video that you sent me this week that this is no longer an Armageddon movie. This is a horror movie where the villains are the ones that you trust that are trying to lead you to Jesus. Just take this shot and maybe tentacles grow out of your head. I don't know, but send your seed, not that kind, but the money kind, and then just send it to us, and then we will make sure that your name is written into the book of life of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Why are you giving the governor of New York, who I'm sure hasn't set a foot in a southern state one time in her life, a super southern accent? I'm probably totally foot and mouthing. I know nothing about this lady.
I've listened to this video. Multiple times. It's like that's exactly how she sounds.
Well, they're gonna get to hear her.
She's gonna be she's like a televangelist that I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's creepy.
If you're willing,
it's creepy.
She makes claims where God made the vaccine and made the people make it. It's like, well, that's a leap of faith now, isn't it?
Yeah, and listen, I want to believe...
Does that mean God made them make COVID-19 too, and he made them spread it as well? Because if he made them do that, then he had to have done the other thing, right?
Well, here's the thing. So you've heard, and I know, but the people who say that we're hyperbolic when we draw parallels to 1984, those are the same people who are in the cult.
Number one, that have never read the book.
Like, people that agree with us obviously think that we're spot on because they agree with us. And people that are kind of middle of the road, or maybe they, want to hear out our argument before they decide whether they agree or not. They start looking around at these things and they're like, this isn't far off. I mean, that whole
new speak, new thought.
Yes. War is peace.
Peace is war.
Freedom is slavery, that kind of thing, about turning words on their head. Not only that, but what is the saddest thing about 1984? It's the very end when they finally break him.
Hey, spoiler alert. Maybe people haven't read this yet.
Yeah. It's
only been out
1950,
since,
whatever.
Or exactly. It's only been out for 100 years. All right.
Well, sorry. Okay.
All
David gave a spoiler alert.
If you haven't read it, pause it right now. Yeah. Go read the entirety and then press play.
Yes. But at the very end where they finally broke him, because I think, what is the last line of it? It's something like, he loved Big Brother, I think is the last line of the book. Oh my God, just when you hear her talk, if you don't get some serious, gross, creepy 1984-y vibes,
you know what?
I don't know. Check your pulse.
Let him hear it.
All right.
Let him hear it. Let's not bury the lead anymore.
Throw it in her face.
We're hyping it up. It's time to drop it in 3, 2, Let's get it.
But I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones. But you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools. I want you to be safe when you go to a doctor's office or to a hospital and are treated by somebody. You don't want to get the virus from them. You're already sick or you wouldn't be there. We have to solve this, my friends. I need every one of you. I need you to let them know that this is how we can fight this pandemic, come back to normal, and then start talking about the real issues that we have to. Fighting systemic racial injustice, which exists today. And if there's a denier, I will take you on any day because I've seen it. I know it exists. And we are not going to have a blind eye to this ever again, any longer under my watch. That is my commitment to you.
And you've presided over it. Anywho,
So that was a windy road all the way to social justice at the end.
What was that? A minute and a half?
Yeah, roughly thereabout. So
Like,
I
there's
think
so much to unpack in that small little minute and a half.
So just to set the stage a little bit. So that was Kathy Hochul. I don't know how you say her last name, but anyway, she's the one who took over as governor of New York when Cuomo resigned. She was the lieutenant governor. So now she's the governor of New York, and she was speaking at, I don't know if it was a Christian church or if it was just like, it was like gathering of Christians.
I
And so
certainly hope so.
that's why, the quote, know your audience kind of thing. That's why she was taking more of the religious tact. But the fact that you would take such a religious tact with the vaccine is like,
Well, it's
God,
funny.
that was just gross.
She didn't discern between which vaccine, because don't most religious people have a problem with Pfizer because it used stem cells that were
Or the fact that
originated?
Baptists and Protestants hate Catholics even though they're all Christians. Like, what'd you get? Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson and Johnson?
Is you a member of the devil tribe? Like, there's just and I think somewhere in there, she kind of equated herself to Jesus, which is also equating herself to God. She said, I want you to be my apostles.
Be my apostles, right?
Like, we've already seen one political epitaph, i.e. Dr. Fauci, claim that he's the god of science. To question Fauci is to question science itself.
Exactly.
And then now we have somebody beatifying themselves and making them Jesus incarnate to spread the vaccine. I don't know. Jesus taught to love one another as I have loved you and to treat your neighbor as you would have them treat you. So, to use that logic, would you want somebody to force you to put something in your body that you didn't want to put in there?
Let's just concede for a second.
Right.
Let's just concede everything that the vaccine proponents, and again, not vaccine proponents, we are distinguishing between the group of people who I want the vaccine, I think everybody should get it, it's a good idea, and the people that take that mentality and try to force it on others. That's the dividing line. If you got it and it worked for you and your family, or you were in a certain risk group and the balance weighed in favor of doing it and you did it, we have nothing to say to you. That is just as much your personal decision as somebody who makes the opposite personal decision. We are talking, when we use the term Vax Nazis and cult and stuff like that, we're talking about this type of mentality that she just displayed. This sort of like messianic type, I'm going to deliver you because, I'm the smart one in New York that's going to enforce all this stuff. But this is a religion. I mean, she basically equated the vaccine to a sacrament, right? you are the smart ones because you're vaccinated, but there's not smart ones. That's no different than a religion saying we're good and they're evil, right? So even though she's talking to a group of Christians, the way she uses the sort of messianic religious type phrasing, I mean, that's why we call it a cult.
And if that was a little bit above your head, let me dumb it down for you, because that's where I'm at. That's like saying that I'm a Presbyterian. I practice the same, I'm worshiping roughly the same God as everyone else is. And then all of a sudden, somebody kicks down the door of my Presbyterian church with a handful of Eucharists and says, we're Catholic, you have to take this into your body. We don't care what your beliefs are. You're going to eat this now. Would that fly directly
talking about
into what you
strapping
believe?
someone down and making them consume the Eucharist?
I'm talking about, like, we're all praying to the same God, but there are tribes within the same God, i.e., we're all free, quote unquote, in this society.
Mhm.
But then all of a sudden, one church decided, i.e., the church that wants you to get vaccinated, decided that it's no longer an option. We're going to force it on you. So that's the thing. Like, you're no longer allowed to be Presbyterian. You're no longer allowed to be Protestant. You have to be Catholic, or change this out for any number of religions. It all of a sudden says, yeah, we all believe in the same God, but now guess what? You have to believe exactly as we believe, or else you're an other and we don't accept you.
Right. And I mean, and that tracks back to 1984 exactly, because the point in there about the regime is that everybody has to conform. You cannot let one person stick out. It doesn't matter what the reason is. And again, our argument stays the exact same if we can, and so therefore we will concede every single thing that they claim about the safety and the effectiveness of it. We're not arguing that in the slightest.
Even though we could.
We say
very easily.
We say, take it, it's good for you, whatever. All of the stuff they say about the alleged science of the vaccine is true. Concede the whole thing. If for whatever reason, an individual person still says, I understand all that, I just don't want it. Why? I just don't want it. Explain yourself. I just don't want it. Yes, in our legal regime, somebody has to come up with a religious exemption or has to come up with this. You don't even have to do that. Somebody just says, I just don't want to.
Hey, I got an idea. Let's tack on the latter part of her argument and say that somebody shows up on a different colored person's doorstep and says, okay, you have to go outside and do this thing. It's like, I don't want to. Well, you have to. Well, I don't want to. Well, you don't want to because you don't look like me. So therefore, you're not me. Therefore, you're an enemy. Right? Fair enough, right? She used the racist, systemic, yada, yada, yada.
At the very end, yeah.
At the very end. So you don't look like me, so I should be able to force you to do whatever I want. And until you do what I want, you're not me, and you're not equal to me.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? She said one thing at the beginning of her statement, and then she went completely the opposite way at the end of it. And she thought that we, again, were paint chip eaters, to refer back to the
Yeah, we are those people this time.
Pre-roll, is that she thought that we couldn't put two thoughts together and realize that they don't mesh very well.
Yeah, like there isn't a reason why somebody might refuse the vaccine. I mean, again, she's saying, you're the smart ones. You figured it out. You realize you need this, but they're not. So I need you to go proselytize for me. Basically saying that, oh, well, those stupid rubes just don't know what's good for them. So you got to go out there and tell them what's good for them.
By the way, who's the most unvaccinated population? The minorities that she's speaking of?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Well, and I mean,
shit.
To your point about the SJW, like, we have historical examples of exactly this type of mentality.
Off the top of the head, Tuskegee.
What was the original? I mean, not even that. I'm talking about the othering of people. What was the original justification for segregationists? The
Because
original
they were dirty.
is because they basically ginned up this fear in white America, saying that African Americans were dirty, and that's why you can't share water fountains because you might get contaminated, you clean white person. Like that was the original argument. And that's exactly the argument that's being made about the unvaxxed.
But they don't. You know what? That's kind of what gives me a little bit of relief from this is that they're not smart enough to know that they're saying very stupid things within the same sentence. Like within the same speech, she just shit on the uneducated people that don't get vaccinated. And then at the very end, she said that those unvaccinated people, being uneducated, being mostly predominantly minority, we gotta stand up for the minorities, and we gotta stem the tide of this systemic racism. It's like
unless they choose not to get vaccinated, but we're not talking about that.
But let's not mention that. Like you're such you guys, you literally set the bear trap and then just step right on it, don't you? You guys can't help yourself.
Well, yeah, I guess
you're like Wile E. Coyote.
That assumes anything would ever
Keep going
actually
back
happen
to the Acme fucking thing, like getting a rocket that's supposed to hit just this way, and you just so happen to stand in front of it, and the Roadrunner moves, and then you hold up a sign that says "Yikes."
You know, I want to draw attention to another part of the speech, which is kind of creepy. There's a part there in the middle where she talks about, you know, or she gives some hypothetical example or talks about like, oh, the kids were able to graduate because they were safe, right? She's insinuating that again, it's the classic government line. Who's going to protect the kids, right? If you attach that to any government cause, it justifies pretty much everything. You got to protect the kids, which again is smart from a human psychology standpoint because biologically we are programmed to protect the young. That's how a species continues. You got to protect the young. But first of all, here's my argument that her bringing up the kids in the context of that statement can only be made for fear purposes and not for we truly care about the kids purposes. It has been known since the beginning of this pandemic, this is less severe than the flu for kids. I know that's hard for a lot of you to believe, because you hear flu in the same sentence as COVID, and you're like, it's not the flu, right? They fly into a rage. But statistically speaking, for children under a certain age, it's like 16 or may even be older than that, the case fatality rate is less than the flu. So if she's saying that the only way the kids got to graduation because they were in a safe environment, it's not killing them any faster than anything else that would require a mandatory vaccination. So again, she can only be bringing up the kids for one reason and one reason only. Playing on people's ignorance to drive in fear.
Well,
if you don't do this, your kids are going to die, is the implication.
Theatricality. And if you think that we're being over the top or anything, I want you to go back to the moment that we started that video. Close your eyes and picture that it's the intro to a horror film that you're about to watch. Do that for yourself. Think of like a very melancholy tone behind what she's saying, and it's going to lead into the zombie apocalypse. Like, it's not so far removed. Like, I'm not saying that
it was a fire and brimstone speech. Right. That's what they used to call them, fire and brimstone speeches.
This is not. I'm not saying that this is exactly what's going to happen. What I'm saying is that these are the things that subtly turn up the temperature on the pot that us as frogs are sitting in. Like, unless we realize that the temperature is going up, they're only going to ramp it up from here. Like, to say that you're uneducated, they've been saying that you're uneducated if you're not vaccinated for months now. And no one stood up and said, well, I'm educated and I don't feel like getting the vaccine. I've got a Harvard degree. I'm a doctor. I work in there's a
specific person. His name's Martin Koldorf.
Right, exactly.
He is a Harvard doctor,
right,
who was one of the great authors of the Great Barrington Declaration and says focused protection is the way to go. All this mandatory stuff is totally unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of the most at risk, the sick and the otherwise, immunodeficient. to isolate them, take care of them. Maybe the vaccine makes more sense for them. Sure. But you don't need to mandate it on the entire population. You certainly don't need to do it to freaking children. And everybody else can make their decision.
But you know the angle they'll take? They'll say, well, Harvard's not a real university anyway. We've just been, scuttling it along for however long. Well,
they're
weren't you educated at Harvard? That's not the point. What is important is that social justice is a thing.
If they're going to do that, they're also going to have to rule out Stanford because of Jay Bhattacharya. They're going to have to rule out Oxford because of Sunitra Gupta. Like, I mean, I'm
sure he got fired off of CNN for his particular standpoints.
Take down all of the major institutions of the world. They're churning out Marxists anyway, so I don't really care.
I don't give a fuck, but they're supposed to be the most educated. Yeah. They're the ones standing up against it. So to say that the uneducated are the ones not getting the vaccine, that's something for stupid people to bite on and be drawn in hook, line, and sinker. Well, because they don't want to be uneducated.
Tom Woods has a word for them. He calls them midwits all the time. They're not stupid. They probably got an IQ between 100 and 110. They're just smart enough to be able to memorize lines
and regurgitate
them. Yeah. So when they say, when the line comes out, vaccine saves lives, or you remember the Facebook things in the beginning, like stay home, save lives, that kind of stuff. They can regurgitate that. And then when you ask them follow-up questions, they're completely incapable of responding. They're midwits, is what he calls them. And that's exactly what the vast majority of them are. If you ask them to critically think 2 steps into a claim that they heard on CNN, they get lost and start arguing against themselves. Right. But they can sure as hell, regurgitate to you verbatim what Fauci said to Rand Paul,
because it's going down the teleprompter.
In front of the Senate. Yeah,
it's going down the teleprompter.
Of course,
like these guys aren't smarter than you. They're just better at reading down the teleprompter than you are because they've had more practice at it. But my whole point being is that like this isn't an argument for smart or dumb. This is whether you want it in your body or not. And now, again, let's bring it back to the whole fulcrum. Like, when has your health, your particular health, been so important to not only the corporations that are offering you the vaccine, the government that is mandating that you get it to even be, almost considered an intelligent citizen, to just being able to live your daily life? Like, if that was the case, then why is Coca-Cola still a thing? Why is McDonald's still a thing?
Still a thing.
Why is fast food? Why are all these things? Why is Marlboro still a thing? Like, how do we say that they really give a fuck about our health? Because they've let all these things that have led to heart disease, i.e., kills 656,000 people a year, was the leading cause of death last year, not COVID. And you know what the second leading cause of death was?
Wait.
It was cancer.
You just said 656,000 deaths, and right now, total COVID, we sit at 700. You're telling me 656,000 a year die from heart disease?
I wasn't done. Oh,
somebody did his homework this week.
COVID took third behind cancer. That came in at 450,000.
Oh yeah, you remember when we talked about people not getting routine cancer screenings because COVID had the hospitals shut down?
You remember when God made all those smart people that cured COVID that they created? You remember that one time that God did that? Well, apparently God just woke up from his nap. He's like, "What, COVID? Okay, cancer? What? I have to make like 20 more smart people. It's so hard." Cancer's been around forever. Okay, cool. So we haven't cured that, and we haven't cured heart disease, which most of the heart disease is related to unhealthy behavior, which is related back to diet. So if we are truly listening to these people that have so much concern for our health, why haven't they just mentioned maybe drink one less bottle of Coca-Cola a day?
If I can clarify, because this is what I think you're saying, and I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. You're not saying that cancer is or should be as curable as a virus. You're saying that there are certain things in our diets, especially, that are cancer causing. They're carcinogenic, or like you said, Marlboro. You can still smoke cigarettes and they're carcinogenic. We know they cause cancer. And yet government has virtually nothing to say about those things.
Nothing.
I mean, well, I'll put it this way. They're definitely not mandating you eat double cheeseburgers and smoke Marlboros every day. They're not forcing you to ingest those things if you don't want. But they are forcing you to ingest something else. So, I mean, and that's the thing. We've brought up the stat a whole bunch. And again, we say it every time because of cancel culture. We're not bringing up the stat to point any fingers at overweight or obese people as people. But when you're north of 75% of all severe COVID hospitalizations resulting in either death or severe, are either obese or overweight. So, I mean, I understand correlation isn't causality, but if they're going to say X number % of the hospitalized are unvaccinated, I feel it's a rather important detail to also be able to say, 75% of them are also severely overweight, not out of shape.
By the way, what also happened during the forced lockdown?
Oh, yeah.
I think the average weight gain was 3 pounds a month.
Yeah,
people became less healthy during the lockdown, thusly making them more susceptible to being affected by COVID due to the government mandate that they can't go to work.
Because parts of the public health crisis, right? And last time I checked, public health wasn't some monovirus focused thing. Like, you're supposed to think about all aspects of public health.
Correct.
Aren't they busy trying to shove down our throat that the gun problem in America is a public health crisis? So by their own admission, they understand there's more things involved in public health than just COVID. But as a part of their public health measures, they said you can't go to gyms, you can't go outside and play.
You can't go out and get healthy.
You basically can't do anything remotely physically active that would put you in an otherwise healthier position than you otherwise would be. And that's part of the response to their quote unquote public health crisis.
Irony abounds. All I'm saying is, like,
if
you truly think that they have your best interests in mind, then I want you to go dump some hydroxychloroquine into your veins and put some blue lights in there. I don't know what else Trump said.
Please don't do any of this. We are not medical doctors.
We don't,
David. I'm trying not to get us.
We don't need any more of you. Actually, go start breathing other people's air.
Bro, I'm fresh out of the Facebook clink not a few days ago. I don't want to go back in.
Let's just go.
I'm not made for the inside.
Start sucking up other people's sneezes, because if you really think that the government has your best interests in mind, then we don't need any more of you. Please don't procreate. Anyway.
Yeah, so just gross all the way around.
Do you want to cherry on top it? Do you want to cherry on top it with Colbert?
Yeah. We're gonna complete the cathedral circle for you on this one. So, we've got the government mouthpiece, the governor of New York, basically given the state side of the
Who is the governor of New York nowadays?
Kathy Hochul.
Oh.
Hochul. I don't know.
Well, who was the governor of New York when this whole thing started?
Oh, yeah. Captain conquered COVID. Cuomo.
Right.
Yeah,
interesting.
That was good.
Captain
conquered COVID. Cuomo.
My God, that's an alliteration. Mark it.
I'm firing on all cylinders.
Apparently. So, what happened to Mr. Hansy? Excuse me. Captain COVID Defeater wrote a book about it.
Well, as soon as he got done killing grannies and smacking fannies,
right,
he had to step down because
he got a little too close to the family.
Or in his words, he's not perverted, he's just Italian.
I'm just Italian. I grab the asses because we love you. Hey, paisan, we smack you in the face. What you doing with your mooly and your coolie and your ghoul on?
And
apparently I'm being racist right now.
No, well, we're allowed to because we're of the same. They're also white, so
yeah. Well, kind of.
You can't discriminate against white people, David.
Apparently. Anyway,
the government, we see what it thinks about COVID, but we've known that for a long time. But then, and we're not going to play this video because this is something you have to see to truly, go wrap yourself around the toilet afterwards. Is what is he now? The Tonight Show? Stephen Colbert, whichever one of the late night shows he does.
I think it's the late. Fuck it. It doesn't matter.
We'll put a
Doesn't
link.
matter.
We'll put a link in the show notes page, wndpodcast.com/.
Revert back to Falling Stars, episode 61.
Yeah, but this came out after that.
Yeah, but what we were saying in Falling Stars is like, hopefully they'll find their way. Hopefully they're not just mouthpieces for,
and they keep falling
the cathedral. And it's like this. I mean, I used to respect this guy. I used to think that he's punching in such an unorthodox manner that it's genius.
Yeah, and he used to always punch up. He would always be poking fun at government and government officials. But now this past week, he had an episode where he has, I don't know, like 4 guys, whatever, dressed up as syringes.
Women.
Where there was the women there too?
They're women.
Okay, yeah. Got to have equal representation. Anyway, 4 dancers around him dressed up in syringe costumes.
And they took the song Tequila.
Yeah.
And you'll never guess what they did with it.
And instead of vaccine spelled the normal way at the bottom, it was the vaccine, VAX or whatever, VACC, and then SCENE, vaccine. And he's dancing around with the crowd, and then to the song that David just referenced. Yeah, it's all singing about the vaccine while and people are loving it, and it's fantastic. It's as disgusting as it sounds, and we did a terrible job describing it. So go to the show notes page and check it out there, or just YouTube it. And again, if you need a visual representation of what the cathedral is, these 2 things. Hochul's speech in terms of being on script from the government perspective, and then their propaganda arm in media to make sure that you're getting all the right messages.
Or what they think you are in general. They think that you're dumb enough that you can listen to somebody say God, 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 vaccine, God, vaccine, social justice. And you go, well, I better go get a vaccine. Or option B, you're going to bed one night, and in your bed, because somebody that you listen to every night before you go to bed dances around with a bunch of syringes and says vaccine to the tune of Tequila, that's going to convince you to get a shot. Really? Are you really that dumb? Are you really that not able to come up with your own decisions that a shitty rendition of Tequila convinces you to get a shot in your arm?
I mean, yes, you're right. And dumb.
They're making fun of you. They're absolutely making fun of you.
I don't know about that as much. Like we've been hitting on the intelligence side of this a lot in this episode, which again is all valid. But there's also another side to it. It's blatant in the God version. She's interjecting morality into it. But Colbert, in his way, is also interjecting morality into it. We talked about, the Falling Stars episode about how him and Kimmel are like, oh, well, you don't get access to healthcare if you're not vaccinated or whatever. They are, in a very moralistic sense, not just strategy, because othering people is a strategy for political favor. But othering people can also have a moral component to it. What the moral component is it allows you to treat this person as literally less than human because you've already imbibed and agreed with the premise that they are subhuman. And there's a moral component to that. And she's doing it in her speech, but Colbert's doing it dancing around and, talking about the unvaccinated as kind of like just like they deserve to be these second-class citizens. They cheer when United Airlines, had to fire 600 employees for not getting vaccinated. So like they love that shit because, again, it's a virtue. Like they are cheering for it in just the same way that the people in the Christian crowd were cheering for Governor Hochul. Is like they're cheering for things that they find morally completely unobjectionable.
Just like the Romans cheered when the Christians were sacrificed to the lions.
Exactly.
It's not, again, we feign ourselves educated, but yet we fall for the same classic tropes time and time again. It's like our team versus your team.
Yeah.
How dumb do you have to think that the real team is America? The real team is America. And this is a libertarian saying, I don't have a team, but I'm Team America, world police.
You're saying within the context of COVID, like would it be better if we came together?
It would be more important to maintain your humanity.
To actually be free.
To maintain your humanity. To maintain your morals during this time. Because that's what truly tells you. You don't know who you truly are until you're in a time of crisis. And how you behave under pressure is the person you truly are. So you can walk around and say that I'm a leader, I'm this, I'm that. But right when shit hits the fan and you go, everyone else has to listen to the guy that says the thing or else they're bad people. Like, that shows you that you are a sheep. You're not a wolf. You're not leading the pack. Go ahead.
You bring up a good point about the whole, in trying times, that tells you who you really are. And I think it was a Supreme Court justice, I don't remember the case or whatever, but in a similar vein as that, was like a society, like whether a society is good or bad, or the character of a society is determined by what they do to the least of the members of that society. Right. And so he was talking about it in the criminal justice context. It's like, yeah, somebody did a really bad thing and everybody wants this person to rot in prison for life. But the reason why the procedures of law have to be fair, even for a really morally objectionable defendant, is we have to treat even that person with fairness. And that determines whether or not you are a truly just society, was the point he was trying to make. And that is very prescient here. Because, again, we can concede their entire argument and still come from the same question that we did in the beginning. If we concede everything the Vax Nazis say and that being unvaccinated is selfish and you are less than and you are the worst person in society and you're this terrible person, and we concede all of that, is it still just to treat them the way that you are saying that they deserve to be treated, to give them less health care, to forcibly inject them if they don't want it, to fire them from their job, to make it so that they can't travel, to see family members, that kind of stuff.
Here's the thing.
How are you treating what you view as the least members in your society?
Which goes back to where we started this, the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Would you ever want someone else to tell you to do something that you don't moralistically agree with at all?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of freedom. That's the whole point of this country, is that you're supposed to be able to choose for yourself and not be forced upon. And when you start feeling like you can enforce your views on another person, then you're no longer in the land of the free and the home of the brave. You're in the land of the controlled, home of the sheep. That's it. Thanks.
And the whopper.
Home of the whopper.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's disgusting, man. I don't and guess what? It only gets worse from here. This is the beginning of the snowball. This is where it's growing into the gigantic thing that you can't escape.
Well, and here's the other thing is we draw a lot of parallels to history because that there's a reason why that old adage is such a cliche, is that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. There's a reason why that's the case, because we've seen it happen thousands of times over and over again. And this is a warning to the Vax Nazis.
And
this is not a warning from, you're probably going to think, oh, this is a warning from what, you militia groups? And no, this is a warning to you about yourself. Look at what happened in the French Revolution. And that wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. The people who started it, the people who started the reign of terror, ended up under the guillotine themselves. You don't have to fear the resistors out in the woods, although you should fear some of them. You don't have to fear them as much as you have to fear what you're cheering on today turning on you at some point in the future. Because that mentality, just like the tribalism and all that kind, which is an ancient aspect of human nature going all the way back to the caves, that mentality also exists. The whole Salem witch trials, like, again, all throughout history, this has happened again and again.
All I'm hearing.
Be careful it doesn't turn on you.
All I'm hearing are bad ideas squelch out reason in times that logic needs to be heard. Good ideas stand up to debate. Bad ideas need to squelch out any
Form of
obstacles
debate.
whatsoever. Going back to that, and it's this weird like little picture of like the fulcrum of what happened in Nazi Germany. All those people heiling Hitler, and there's that one man with his arms crossed.
Yeah.
And it's be that one man. We were supposed to be the country of that one man.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because of COVID, because of all these implicit things that are dictating us throughout our day, we're becoming the salute.
And let's talk about, because it is relevant, let's talk about who that one man was.
Please.
He was either engaged at the time that picture was taken. He was either engaged to or already married to a Jewish woman. He wasn't Jewish, but she was.
Right.
So he was in that small subset of the German population that wasn't a part of the targeted group, but deeply, deeply cared about somebody who was a part of the targeted group. And that's why he said no. Now, with the vaccine in particular, we understand, and again, concede the other side of the argument completely, and we still stand on the same argument on our side, that adverse reactions to the vaccine are very, very, very low, super low. So low that all the experts have told us. And we know all of the long-term consequences, and there's no concerns with any of that.
Despite the fact that all the things that they guaranteed didn't happen. Go ahead.
Yet still, at least one person, I'm just going to say one, at least one person has had blood clots and had to be hospitalized for it. At least one person has had heart problems as a result of one of the vaccines. We've heard of these one cases. And again, I'm not using anecdotal evidence to prove my own point, but what I'm saying is, don't you think the father or the cousin or the brother or the mother of that one person who had an adverse reaction might stand there in the crowd of all the people hailing Hitler with their arms crossed? And would that person not be justified for it? So, I mean, that takes understanding where somebody's coming from. I'll bet you nobody in that crowd in Nazi Germany turned around and asked him, what his rationale was for not saluting Hitler. Nobody's going to care about the person who's sitting next to the bedside of somebody that did have an adverse reaction, and that person feeling a certain type of way about not forcing this on other people. That person's story is a rather important reason why they might not say, even if it's as great as you tell me it is, I still don't want it. Those are the people that keep society sane, because if not for those people, society will go into collective psychosis and
you need
run
to
off a cliff.
Respect that, not demean it. That's the whole point of this entire operation of the United States, to respect other people's freedom and your own. So, Dane, on that cheery note, where can they find this podcast?
They can find it at wmdpodcast.com/63. Can also find it on any podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it. Also catch it on YouTube, but link up with us at the website, wmdpodcast.com, on the front page. Join the email list, but also come follow us, engage with our content on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. David, have we solved all the world's problems? Does anybody listen anyway?
Not the world.
Not to this podcast. Of course, they listen to it because it's entertaining. But
like
to our solutions.
In Australia,
yeah.
we're killing it.
We're
right
killing
now.
it.
Like when they have nothing to do because they're under their 25th quarantine. No, I mean,
people.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, you know what they don't have? Guns. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm sure that has nothing to do with anything.
Nothing.
Moving on.
I just want our listeners to be safe out there and tune in next week.
That's right.
All right, guys.